Hello and welcome to Team Wars Talks for week 3. I am your host today. I am Kerno King, and I am joined today from CPerozo, who is the current leader of Bricks and Potatoes, and Herf of Toon Squad, and I believe we'll be joined from Chris from Tier Zero later as well. How are you boys doing?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Yeah, very good. Very excited for today. How about you, Perozo?
Yeah, everything's well. Very excited to see the win rates of some decks. It's pretty spicy.
Yeah, always good to get the spicy stats nice and early. Um, so
Hello, guys.
oh, Chris joined as well. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Looking forward to today. So yeah, just for those that haven't done a Team Wars talk before, we're going to go through all of the match reports from the past weeks and and have some discussions, and we'll then move on to look at division analysis and how everyone's doing, and onto week 4 predictions. So yeah, some good stuff in line, hopefully. Hey to everyone in the chat, Lotso, Sniffers, Hyper Beast, Dom, Andy. Good to have you all. Hopefully some more people filter on through. Unknown too. Yeah, we might as well dive right into it. So the first game that we're looking at this week is Bricks and Potatoes versus Divine. Yeah, and this is this is a spicy one. There was quite a funny copy and paste going on from a certain Mr. Lee that I'm sure many of you saw. But yeah, Bricks ended up coming up on top on this one. Perosa, do you want to talk about sort of your plans for this and how it went for you?
Yeah, it it was. I don't know. At the end of the day, the lineup was a bit of a meme, to be honest. Like we played some decks that um we will not play like in general, I think. But we made a couple of changes last minute, and I'm glad it worked out. Like I think I can highlight the Buster Blader game. Like shout out to Sniffus for giving us the idea, and to Andy for embarrassing himself playing it. I think.
Yeah, Buster was interesting because obviously it's there to beat Blue Eyes, and you had to repeat it. But I suppose with Blue Eyes going on so many streaks this week, just beating it is good enough in a way. Though,
Yeah.
so yeah, it did its job, and obviously that helps you take the war, and then your own Blue Eyes streak as well. I'm interested to hear the thoughts behind. So you said this is a bit of a meme lineup in some ways, but I'm sure some of it was what I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Onomat as the starting deck. I know there are lots of different opinions on what is the right deck to start with now, but I don't think too many people started with Onomat. So any reason behind that, or just what felt best in testing?
To be completely honest, that was just reading our opponents. Like we just thought that Onomat was the best started versus them, and we just brought it, and it worked well, I guess.
Yeah, it did work well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Unknown Boy, for the subscription. Appreciate it, and so do all of Team Wars. And yeah. So, were you fueled on somewhat because it was Divine you were playing and you wanted to beat Vic, or do you not really care about that sort of stuff?
No, I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful, but like, we just thought that Onomat was a good lead versus them specifically, and the Buster Blader choice was like a last resource. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I still think it's not a good idea because the deck is inconsistent, and if the Blue Eyes player opens the deck, it becomes winnable for Blue Eyes. So it is very. I don't know. It wasn't the best, but I guess we took down the Blue Eyes
Yeah.
And we didn't let it take 5 lives, I guess,
I mean,
as it's doing in every war.
yeah. So we're definitely going to discuss Blue Eyes. We have a few Blue Eyes players in the chat today, which is nice. But yeah, it really was the standout deck this week in terms of pulling some wins. And look, if you look here, then it got 3 win streaks for both teams. Yours was seeing it off, so it could have been even more than that. What do you think's happened in the meta this week? And we will discuss this more. That's made Blue Eyes such a standout deck.
I think that the main thing was that last week Blue Eyes started to play cards that are good versus Dweller, and those are Pokemon and TTH, because you don't go -1 or you karma cut discard Stone versus Dweller and they forbidden Lancet, so you go -2 for no reason. Well, -1 in reality is -1, but you lose too many resources, you know. So it is better to have a book or a TTH. So that matchup is already 50-50, and playing those decks, like, I think Blue Eyes is a bit favorite in a best of 1 setting. Not by much, honestly not by much, but I think if you're playing properly, you can win. And also Dark Lord being prevalent, it's like, I don't know, I feel like Blue Eyes can beat anything. Anything that is being played is in this format. So I think that's pretty much why it's doing so well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a very high ceiling as a deck. So yeah, like I said, when we go through all the team reports, I'll come back to everyone individually and talk about Blue Eyes, and then we can talk about all again. But interesting to hear some initial thoughts, and thank you, Perozo, for that. So yeah, Bricks and Potatoes taking this game 10-7. We will be going through every game though, just in very in depth based on who we have in the chat with us. So I'm going to move on now to Toon Squad versus XO. So Toon Squad taking this one 10-5, and we are joined with Herf. And this again was another spicy game. So for anyone that listened to Team Wars talks last week, I believe we were joined with Gabe, and they were hot off a win at that point against Tier 0. And yeah, they said they didn't want to be playing teams like Toon Squad, but then they took it 10-5. So how are you feeling about taking it 10-5?
Without being like CPerozo, you don't want to be toxic, but it always feels good to beat a team that someone looks past you, and especially in this fashion. So, I'll take our win. It was good, feels good, and just gonna focus on our next opponent because these guys, we already beat them. So.
Yeah. Have you got any? Obviously, Thunder Dragons did well for you. Cyber Dragons did well, but any secret to your success against them?
I think that we just tightened up a lot of our misplays that we were doing before. Like if you look at our games against Tier 0 and Sensei, both matches we just played terribly. I think that it would have been much closer. Maybe we would win if we didn't play so terribly, and we tightened a lot of that up this week, and it paid off for us.
Good to know. Yeah, that all makes sense. So
yeah, if you play bad, it's hard to win, right?
yeah. Misplays do punish you, especially in a league where all the top players are playing. So yeah, obviously Thunder Dragons are a deck that lots of people have started losing faith in, and they can be a bit bricky, but 4 wins when they it could be argued to say that they have the highest power ceiling. Is that something you think you'd agree with, or no?
Yeah, I think that if you look at cards like Levineer, and then you can go into Helio, and you can dupe, and you got M7, you have like one of the best turn 2s in the game. It reminds me a lot of like Ancient Gears from like when Ancient Gears were really hot. Like when you have the combos, like you're beating every single deck in the game. Like I don't really think that there's a deck that Thunder Dragons wouldn't beat. But the problem is that the probability you draw that hand is really low. And the problem is that all of the other decks are starting to catch up in power, so you need a more and more specific hand. And especially without Desperado in the meta, Thunder Dragons somewhat fall off.
Yeah.
So, we brought it because we thought it was really good. It's kind of a last minute thing. We're like, hey, let's just put it in the front. Hopefully, it streaks, and it did. So we're like, hey, cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, it did its job. 4 wins put you in a really good spot. Yeah, and another thing that I think interesting. So yeah, there are other leagues besides Team Wars. We don't talk about them too
Mhm.
much, but they do exist. And yeah,
Wait, like what? I'm confused.
XO in other leagues have been bringing Seraph Star Dark Lords
Mm-hmm.
in big numbers, and obviously that happened after this game. But here they still brought 3, which is quite a lot. But they only managed to go 2 and 3 against you. How did those games go? Do you think it was luck that they didn't streak any of their Dark Lords, or were you prepared for Dark Lords at all?
So we were supposed to be prepared for Dark Lords, but there was a submission error by someone who won't be named. So we were considerably less prepared for Dark Lords, so I was pretty Monka-esque the entire war. And if Blast didn't win versus that last Dark Lord, we probably would have lost the entire war.
Okay.
So, yeah, we got, I'll take the luck where luck is due. But at the same time, like, we knew that they really liked Dark Lord, so we wanted to be prepared for them. But at the same time, I really did not like their Dark Lord builds. They were playing like Destiny Draw with Levianeer, and I really do not like Levianeer and Dark Lords at all. I think it's pretty bad, but they liked it, but it didn't do well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's only there for the Destiny draw play.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of debate already on whether it's worth it for the Destiny draw play. Obviously, it being a brick, but it didn't work for them in this, but it did work for them elsewhere. So yeah, I'm sure that debate will continue. But yeah, 10-5, huge win, good springboard now to go on with the rest of the season. Good job. I'm gonna move us on to the next game now, which is Amusement Park versus Forbidden Memories. And because all of my team are lame and none of them could come and join me today, or they've all been on here already in the past couple of weeks, I'm going to have to talk about this one. So yeah, I am a Amusement Park's owner, but I'm not a player this season. Yeah, that's Tenma's very much holding the fort. But yeah, this was a huge one. And another thing that we were talking about earlier was how strong Blue Eyes is right now, and you can see it here with the 6-win streak with Blue Eyes by Scorpion, who's having a great season, by the way. So yeah, I think the interesting thing with Blue Eyes right now is that teams don't seem to have very reliable counters against it. You can see that FM tried Water of a repeat. They tried Cyber Dragon. But even though you could argue both are maybe slightly favored, they're not hard counter level. And I understand that's why decks like Buster Blader are being considered. But as Perozo said, even that isn't exactly a guaranteed win. So I think one thing that we could start to see in the future is teams out there developing their own Blue Eyes counters, because I'm sure lots of teams ended up losing because they didn't have an answer to Blue Eyes, or their Blue Eyes didn't streak as hard as their opponents. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing. But yeah, Amusement Park 3-0 now. This is the best season start we've had in a long while. And this was a good win for us. So I'm gonna move us on again pretty quickly. But well done to the boys that played. Okay. I was hoping Tier 0 was next. We will get to Tier 0. I'm not quite sure what happened with the order. But yeah, I'm going to now, apart from for Tier 0 game where I'll let Chris speak, I'm going to open this to everyone. They can sort of have their own comments on how the wars went. But yeah, Sem versus Fly High Phoenix. And it was a very close one. Sem are one of only 3 teams that have won all 3 of their games so far, and that is largely down to Zenzo, who I think has something like 16 of their 30 game wins so far, which is pretty impressive. So I don't know if anyone watched this war has any comments generally. Now is your chance.
I think
No,
the
I
interesting.
didn't
Oh, I'm
watch
sorry.
it.
Chris, you go first, then Herf, you can come in afterwards.
No, I didn't watch this war, but I see that Zenzo is doing good every week. So congrats to him and
Yeah.
to Sam.
Yeah, Zenzo is a new pickup from for Sem. I've forgotten the team that he played for last season, but I know they're no longer a team. If anyone-
Unforgiven. He used to play for Unforgiven.
Yeah, I think he played for another team after that, though, didn't he?
I
God's
can't remember.
Chosen.
Oh, God's Chosen.
That's the
I don't.
one.
Did
Yeah.
he play for them?
I think he did.
Not sure.
Anyway, if anyone in the chat can confirm, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he's now moved. Well, he has now moved on to Sem, and he's doing really well for them. He did it with Thunder Dragons in the past. This week, Dark Lords was the deck that streaked for him with those 3 wins. But yeah, Herf, sorry, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it's really interesting seeing Fire Kings somewhat I think underrepresented in Team Wars at the moment. And maybe it's because of water, but you see it coming in streaking for 3, which is pretty good. And I think Fire Kings is a deck that will be on the rise next week.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a big Viking fan myself. It's basically all I've been playing in the past sort of 6 to 8 weeks. And I do think it's underrepresented because it generally streaks pretty well. It's just that I think in a way it seems to be faring better in a side deck format right now, which doesn't sound that like it makes that much sense, but I think even though the hand traps are obviously great for beating certain decks like Thunder Dragon and Onomats, but lots of the meta doesn't care as much about hand traps as maybe it did a few weeks ago now. So decks like Water and stuff like that are going to be able to beat it, but in a side deck format, you can take out the hand traps and replace it with back row to level the playing field. Maybe the Fire Kings will start adapting to that, but to be fair, they're already doing well enough at the moment with the normal builds. They nearly pulled the war back here for Phoenix, Fly High Phoenix, that is, and they're also doing pretty well in tournaments. I'm sure everyone is seeing Grocius topping left, right, and center with them. I think Massa is playing them quite a lot as well, and doing well. So, yeah, Fire King's definitely another deck that be interested to see the stats on at the end. Right, Sun
Yeah,
Clan.
sure.
Oh, sorry, Chris, gone.
No, I'm saying that yeah, Fire Kings is underestimated a bit, but also has some weaknesses. Like Necro Valley is a pretty big weakness, and depends if for example, if the meta was playing Karma Cat like it used to before, it will be harder for Fire Kings to do good.
I think one thing that's potentially helped Fire Kings is, as Perozo said at the start, Blue Eyes has moved away from Karma Cut and towards Treacherous Trap
Yeah,
Hole.
definitely.
And Treacherous
Yeah.
Trap Hole really isn't doing that much to Fire Kings. It's
Yeah, also
I mean-
decks like Neos and Desperado were playing Karma Cat past format.
Yeah, exactly. Now that disappeared. If anything happened, if there's a switch back to Karma Cut, which I feel like it could happen at some point, then I feel like definitely Fire Kings could struggle more. But on the counter side to that, Necro Valley is an interesting one because it really hurts Fire Kings, as you said, but not that many decks can play it comfortably right now, and even
Indeed.
decks that are like teching it in can hurt themselves somewhat. So it's an interesting one because Blue Eyes can play Necro Valley in theory, though you don't really see it in Team Wars builds as such. But if you Ultimate Dragons and Fuse and then you've got Necro Valley up, it's really hard to recover your Blue Eyes and continue playing the game if it gets hit. So Necro Valley is in an interesting spot, I think.
Yeah, I think it's less of because even in the past, weaker decks used to play Necro Valley, but more like not a lot of back row decks exist in this meta. And the back row that you see most is DTH and Book of Moon, which is not that effective versus Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. So yeah, that's probably one of the reasons that Vikings are doing well. But like I said, we will look at the stats at a later date. Okay, on to the next one, which was Sun Clan versus Lost Tribe. Adobo Boy, one of the OGs from Timor, has been here since season 1, as far as I remember. Going hard with water here to edge out Lost Tribe 10-6. Yeah, interesting one from Lost Tribe is Weather Painters, because they opted to bring Weather Painters because Francesco is doing very well with them in community tournaments, and so they obviously thought, yeah, a good time to bring them. But I think it's interesting they bought them as a water counter, but then sent Cyber Dragon first as a water counter. And I thought this would be a good chance to open up. What's everyone's opinions on the Cyber Dragon water match?
I think that Citrus should win. Like, if you open playable, like you should just run over Cyber Dragons, or you should just run over water. Like, there's not a lot that water can do if you open playable, in my opinion. Because like one pop, like great, you pop my core. I'm just gonna cybernetic fusion support it out of the grave later, anyways. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cyber Dragon is favored versus water, but I wouldn't say it's a hard counter or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Cyber Dragon versus a back row control type deck, which always Cyber Dragon was good against this type of decks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that consistent, so you can't like expect Cyber Dragon to win for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a bit favorite, but not so much, because like Cyber Dragon is known for playing with 4 or 5 card combos, and if you don't have any of those pieces, you can lose the game. And other than that, if the water player has the Diva set to APK, you really need to open Storm and Fusion Gate. And if you don't have those cards that are not non-searchable, you can also lose the game. So I think it's favorite because you can win going second, and going first it's pretty much out of win. But I don't think it's a hard counter.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. Sorry, by the way, Gabrielle Duel Links, I missed your subscription. Thank you very much for subscribing, and thanks everyone that's out here watching today. Also, thank you Lotso for confirming that Zenzo was on God's Chosen. But yeah, anyway, back to the conversation we were having. I think I agree. Cyber Dragon, in theory, has all the tools to win that matchup, but consistency really really hurts it. And I think one of the more interesting.
Also, like the super strong hands from water when they go first with Dweller, TTH, and then they also have a follow up.
Yeah.
It's not easy, even if they draw a good hand to beat it.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the interesting things about this format is that, aside from a few, no deck really has an easy hard counter. There are obviously the odd matchups, but nothing is like. For example, Blue Eyes. There are definitely decks that beat Blue Eyes, but none seem to be doing it consistently enough. Yeah, like Water can beat Blue Eyes, but even though it did it in this game, it's generally not been doing it. So yeah. And the same, and that's why decks like Weather Painters maybe are going to start to emerge, because they are arguably harder counters against a deck like Water, but it still took a repeat to do it.
Yeah. Every time you waste such a specific counter and use a repeat on it, it's like,
yeah,
I don't know, it feels bad.
It does. Yeah, it feels really bad. Yeah. Shout out to, I believe it was PDS who brought in the counters and repeats a few seasons ago. I don't want to imagine how many washouts there would have been if repeats weren't a thing. But it still really hurts you having to use a repeat on a specific 1-for-1 deck. Obviously, Bricks did it with Buster. It worked out. They managed to get the win and then go on to win the war, but it doesn't always happen like that. So As you can see here, both the repeats used for Lost Tribe early, and they found it very hard to recover.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is this game. Moving on to another 10-9 for Smogon, who were who made the playoffs last season, and Infinity. This was Smogon's first win of the season, I believe. Which interesting fact about this division, which is the division that APK happened to be in, so that's the only reason I know. Everyone in the division has a win now, which is pretty crazy after only 3 games. There are normally teams that don't get their win until week 6, week 7, so a bit of an open division, which is really cool. But yeah, Smogon obviously been playing Team Wars for a while now. They've won it before. They know what they're doing, and one of the teams to utilize Dark Lords to a reasonable level of success, and Resolene coming in clutch at the end and pulling a lot of wins back. I'm not sure if there's anything specific that anyone wants to mention here. I think this is quite a generic lineups in terms of lots of Fire Kings, Water, Dark Lords, and Blue Eyes about.
Yeah. Basically, all the good decks of the meta.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's weird that they paired Fire Kings with Water, though. Like, if your Fire Kings win, what do you think is going to go against it, right?
Maybe they were expecting Fire Kings to lose to Blue Eyes.
Yeah. I think that is the one. Pairings are very awkward right now because in a meta where
some teams have different understanding about its matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's true. The different understandings and matchups, and that's why pairings and sometimes even counter picks. I mean, it's interesting because I would agree. I would, as a Fire King player, be terrified of Blue Eyes coming in against you. But some people were sending Fire Kings this week as a counter to Blue Eyes. So there's definitely a difference in understanding on counters by teams.
I wouldn't think
Yeah,
Fire King Blue Eyes matchup is like. I mean, it's not great, but it's not that bad, really. If you open like Field Spell plus Barong, I mean, you're in there, right? Like,
I mean,
I guess.
Yeah, you could argue that, but just because it's not that bad, it's whether it's a counter or not is definitely something that I would question.
But I'm saying so I wouldn't really be scared of that scared of Blue Eyes. I'd be more scared of Water, which is a worse matchup, right?
What? I don't even think Water counters Fire Kings.
Yeah.
I mean, it locks your grave, and they can play Necro.
I'm with Chris.
Yeah, if they play Necro, okay, it's not the Water, it's the Necro Valley, but you summon bigger monsters than them.
Yeah,
basically.
I think,
And you can grind pretty good, where if the Water makes the Dweller and you get over it, they rely on the top deck.
I think an interesting one
Sometimes
about
it can be good, sometimes not.
the Water matchup is there's a couple of things that can influence it. For one, if you're playing Alistair engines, I think that makes it more favored for Fire Kings. Because it's another monster you can summon which is bigger and you can keep doing it again and again. They're not going to be able to keep blocking stuff coming out from the graveyard. A second one is it's one of the matchups where the special summoning off the field spell, so summoning the Garanix from hand, is actually fairly relevant. So I don't think it's favored for Fire Kings, but I'm not sure if it's countered. But then, like I said, we're in this weird meta where it's questionable what counters what. And lots of people
can hear different opinions, and you can't even make fun of that because it's not for sure. Like
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there have definitely been metas that
Like
are much
I'm
more
not
clear.
gonna. If someone thinks Water counters Fire Kings, I'm not gonna think that it's a mistake or not, because things like that can be. You can say that Dweller counters the Fire King engine, but also you can say that their grind game is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like if you're the Water player, like you have to Dweller stun and then like finish the game. I agree that the longer the game goes, the better the Fire Kings have a chance of winning. But I would say like early game, like if you have Dweller plus a pop that will lock the graveyard, like sure you can summon Garunix, but I'm gonna pop it and you can't float. And it won't come back, right?
Yeah, this is another interesting one because it's
Yeah.
do
But
hand traps stay in Fire King for much longer, considering that's the sort of deck they're facing, or do they move to back row that can be like, no, treacherous trap hole, so water don't have any monsters. Book of
yeah,
Moons are
back row
also
will
huge.
help a lot in that matchup.
Yeah. So interesting to see if that does happen. Anyway, on to the next game, which is Diffusion versus Modern Empire. So this is one of the first real blowouts we've seen this week. Puzor, uh, again, it's Blue Eyes the deck that really streaked. Though I'm not going to focus on Blue Eyes because we talked about Blue Eyes a lot here. I'm going to talk about the other deck that got 4 wins for Diffusion, which is Lunar Lights. Oh no, it got 3 wins. Blue Eyes got
They've
7.
shown before that they love Lunar Lights.
Sorry, what was that, Chris?
They've shown before that Diffusion loves Lunar Light. In 1 week in Clan Wars, they brought 3.
Yep. It's an
And I
interesting
don't know,
one.
Diffusion is always a team that in seasons they will always have like a couple of huge wins like this.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but it's always them having some huge wins randomly.
Yeah. And it was Blue Eyes that blew out this week. But like I said, Luna starting. Now, obviously a DC win is what helped them, but also there was a time limit loss with Lunar Lights as well. So
Lord timed out with Luna Lights versus Blue Eyes.
yeah. And it was Blue Eyes that the DC win happened against as well. So yeah, Lunar Lights is an interesting one. It's in that same sort of realm of Fire King. It counters decks with the hand traps and then cheesing them, though maybe Fire King plays a bit differently. But it saw quite a lot of play sort of week 1 and week 2. It's gone down in play a lot now, but hey, it worked. It worked for Diffusion this week, and as Chris says, Diffusion do normally get a couple of blowout wins like this, and this was their first one this season. So congrats to them. And in a minute, I'm just going to scroll through until I find a tier 0 game. This is ridiculous.
I think, are you looking at Team War Talks? I think it's at the very
The
top.
very first one, bro.
But, Claw Clan versus Fallen Angels. So yeah, Fallen Angels having a pretty good season so far. They're 2-1 now after this.
We're playing them we're playing them next week.
Oh, are you? Okay, interesting. So yeah, they've beaten Claw Clan, who were playoffs a playoff team last season, and they also beat Shadow Game Links in what was a battle of the new teams. Unless I'm mistaken, the new team they played. But yeah, Water here stealing it all with a couple of wins
Yeah,
for
what
Cyber
against Viking.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I think that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting one then. You're going against Insano, who was a former tier 0 member. You scared he's coming back for revenge?
No, it's all good with Insane. I don't think there's anything like that.
Nothing there. Okay. Cool. Wow. We'll look forward to that one next week.
I'm a little confused though. They sent Fire Kings into water. It lost, and then they were like, "Okay, we'll just play Fire Kings." Why? Like they had both of their repeats. I think that you'd want to repeat Cyber Dragons there, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that I thought is interesting is that Japanese teams, I feel, are less happy using their repeats compared to European NA teams. I don't know if there are any official stats on that. There probably aren't because it's a very specific thing. But I've just noticed that some teams are happier than others in using their repeats. I'm not quite sure what that is. But yeah, these are teams that don't seem to want to use it. So maybe that's why they didn't repeat the Cyber Dragons. And also, as we've discussed, like there's different opinions on what counters what, and I'm sure that'll be a topic that we go into greater depth when we go through the analysis later. Neg in the chat asking if Chris has been toxic. Yeah, fine so far. And then we are
If
now.
he keeps being in the chat, I will be.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to Phoenix, who took a beating from from you chillers this week. Now, no disrespect to any of the Phoenix boys. I'm playing for them for Clan Wars this season. They're all my bros. But this one didn't go so well for them, and they are the team that decided Fire Kings was the Blue Eyes counter, so much that they repeated it. What's interesting, though, is that it worked.
Well,
Yeah.
repeat, right? Like,
Yeah, they repeated Fire Kings, and it did beat Blue Eyes in the second attempt, which shows that, again, countering isn't as certain this season it has been in previous seasons.
Well, if we can't see also, it's hard to say because maybe Blue Eyes just bricked and they won.
Yeah, I gotta say that I kind of like Fire Kings, but I know this is not the most objective thought that I can give to you guys. But like every time I see Fire King doing well, it's because their opponent is throwing so hard. Like I've been watching Blue Eyes players tagging out Spirit for literally no reason, losing the game on that, and it's like, dude, it's not so hard. You just have to keep the Spirit one turn more in the field. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Fire King can beat a good Blue Eyes hand. Like, it just cannot. If you play properly, you just cannot beat it.
I would agree with that. I think for whatever reason, there's something about Fire Kings that baits misplays. And I use them in, I'm just gonna say Clan Wars. And I 5-1 with them this season, and I believe 4 of the games that I won were because my opponent misplayed. So there is something about them, and often with Blue Eyes as well. There is something about them that just seems to make people question what they're doing. I'm not sure what that is. I think maybe at first it was because people weren't used to playing Vikings because they were sort of a deck on the periphery of the meta. But now they're quite a big deck and it's still happening, so I don't really have any explanations.
I think people get nervous when stuff doesn't target. They're like, wait, what's gonna get destroyed? And then you just say yes, and then they're like, click.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, people are misplaying against them for sure.
Yeah, it's real. Like even Grucius, Grucius says that he has a good joke that he says that Fire King is the best deck of all times because you just summon Arvada and your opponent throws the game himself. So it's like, so you will win for sure. Like that's just how Fire King is. And once again, I like the deck, but every time I see him doing well, every time I see the deck doing well, it's because the opponent is throwing so hard.
I have to admit that when I first played that deck, I thought against the Fire Kings, I thought Arvata negates and destroys, but it just negates.
And it only negates that one activation. It doesn't negate the continue. Like if it activates another effect.
Yeah, I was playing against a team member who I will not name about a week ago, and he played really weird, and I was like, "What are you doing? Why didn't you just activate an effect?" And he was like, "Oh, because you have Avatar," and I was like, "Yeah, but I've got no cards in hand or on the field." People just see it and they're just like,
it was banned then.
Yeah.
It's basically she, indeed. I don't know what to tell you.
But very, very interesting that Fire Kings people, like you said, do seem to misplay against it. But anyway, yeah, Uchillas, I think they've won 2 games now. They're doing well. Insert here, 10-1 is always massive. I'm sure he's in line for a Player of the Week. Yeah, this was a great performance. Nothing seems that unusual in Phoenix's lineup. It's not like there's any obvious reason. I'm sure, obviously, some bricks will have probably contributed to it, but yeah, congrats and good luck to both teams for their next game.
I remember James said that pretty much every deck that went against Cyber Dragons bricked.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna believe that.
I did.
I'm just saying James said that. That's all I said. That's
I'm not
what
going to
James
believe
said.
that a 10-1 happened because of bricks.
I will say that the games that I caught at the end were from Vince, so V Bellafiore, the final two games, and Water opened Necro Valley TTH going first, and he used the skill to get the two Cyber Dragons on the field, activated Fusion Gate, and at that point activated TTH. And obviously because of Necro Valley, that should have stopped the Cyber Dragon player in the tracks, but he had double core in hand to use with Fusion Gate still.
Yeah, so the water player bricked. Just didn't like. Come on, if you lose, you brick. That's how it works.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes it was a mix of that and some sacks, but I definitely the Cyber Dragon wins at the end. The two Cyber Dragon wins at the end were two of the most disgusting hands that I've seen in a long time. But you have to ride your luck in this game and capitalize on it. And Uchidas definitely did that with the 10 win. So congrats, insert, and yeah, good luck for the rest of the season. On to the next game, Pharaohs versus Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Life. Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Life picking up their first win of the season again. We can't say that much more about this with another Blue Eyes run at the end. Interesting though that it's a Blue Eyes run that started with a repeat. A couple of these Blue Eyes runs with 3 or more wins have been from repeats first, so not sure. I suppose that's just Blue Eyes has a consistency issue still. Even though it's a very strong deck, you can somehow draw both your Blue Eyes and not do that much.
I will say that overall Blue Eyes is consistent compared especially to the other decks in the format. It's just that its bricks stand out a lot because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably
But
a better way
overall,
of putting it.
it's consistent enough.
Yeah, so I've not played Blue Eyes as much since the new builds came in, but I played them a lot with the old builds, and I always thought before that they had the highest power ceiling, but were the most inconsistent deck in the format for quite a while. Now I feel like that's really changed now, and they still have one of the highest power ceilings, but they've gained that consistency. But like you said, the some of your hands are just so unplayable that you just have to pass.
Yeah.
And that's going to get punished in a format. We're so far into this game now. So many decks can OTK an empty board. Like most decks can just
definitely
finish you. So
even the control decks can OTK.
Yeah, exactly. Fire King one we've been talking about a lot. Even Fire King has got a couple of ways to OTK. So you have to watch out at the moment. But anyway, this was a good win for Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Life. We're playing Pharaohs next week, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but should be a good game. Switcheroo were our champions last season, and Rafaelza, they are a returning team, and they're actually 2-1 this season now after this win, and Switcheroo are 1-2. So it's not as true now, but there always used to be a big problem in the past of the season after you won Team Wars. It became really hard to make playoffs the following season, and it looks like Switcheroo might be struggling here with this 1-2 start. So I
think they will make it.
You think they will make it?
They are good. They are very good, I think, as a team.
Yeah.
Even if they have the bad start, I think they will just focus more, prepare more. I don't know how they prepare, but they will just try harder.
Yeah.
Maybe they became too complacent for themselves.
No doubt that they're a good team. They have so many players. I mean, Act must have more gold icons than nearly anyone else. So they have
Cyber Dragons, right?
Yep. Every time. but he does it consistently. But yeah, I just wonder if now I've never won Team Wars, so I can't speak from experience here. But I wonder if after teams win Team Wars, it's harder to motivate yourself to work as hard the season afterwards, and I think that might have a bit of an impact. Now, Perozo, I don't know if you were on Bricks any of the seasons where they have won, but they are a team that has won and then has made playoffs the season afterwards, I think. So do you think that's true? Do you think there's an element of after you win a season, you have a bit more of a break the season afterwards?
I think in general that might be true, but like me personally, like I don't know. I always play to win. Like
Yeah.
I just can't think about, yes, I'm gonna play this, but I'm gonna play this meme deck this week and the next week. Oh yeah, we can play this player that doesn't test. Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you are a really good team and you have some prestige, you should always play to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You should always play to win. I just wonder if sometimes maybe the practice slips a little bit. I don't know. And like I said, in recent seasons, the team that won has also made playoffs the season afterwards. So it's not as true now. It's just a problem that was happening earlier in Team Wars' past. So yeah. But anyway, Switcheroo, as Chris said, they've got a lot of strong players, and even though they're in a tough spot now, they can definitely dig themselves out. But well done to Rafaeliza. 2-1 on your first season back is a really good showing. So long may it continue. And on to Banana Rampage against Shadow Game Links. One thing that I'm noticing in the pattern in this now is that where it's not if it's not Blue Eyes that went on a streak, and Blue Eyes did win 3 in a row here at the start for Shadow Game Links, it seems to be Water here going on a large streak, and that's not the only game that Water won a lot of. Would people say that Water is the easiest deck in the meta to pilot?
Maybe, but I think a lot of it is like knowing when to use your interruptions, and especially like when to use your dweller. Like I guess like a lot of it is like either you know it or you don't. So like if you're decent at it, you're good at it. But like there are bad water players out there somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't say it's like the easiest just because it's more so a control deck, and you really need to be a good control deck to pilot a control deck like optimally. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
it does.
I think Blue Eyes is much more easier. Like the only difficult thing that you have to really think about playing Blue Eyes is just the correct moment in every matchup to tag out the Spirit Dragon. Like that's the only thing that really matters playing Blue Eyes, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And wow, what's that for a stat from Duel Links Team was thanks to the mod that is behind that. This was the longest match this season, clocking in at 3 hours and 25 minutes. Yeah, luckily
I think I'll just fall asleep.
luckily there are no stall decks running around right now, because else games have definitely gone beyond 4 hours in the past. So
Jesus.
yeah.
Thanks to Tristrons or Dark Lords, I guess.
Yeah, well, APK, I think like 3 or 4 seasons ago, before I was on them anyway, so probably 4 seasons ago, or maybe even 5 seasons ago, played a game against Odyssey, which they won 10-9, and I think Stool won 6 of the games. So I think that was the game that has the history for the longest. I think that might have been a 5-hour war.
That's a real war, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting that 3.5 is as far as we've gone this season. It's always, you don't want it to go much longer than that. But yeah, as Chris said, Cristrons also take a long time. So decks like that not being around right now may be the reason that wars are going a bit shorter. So another close game though. Rookies against X Factors. Right, I'm gonna find the tier 0 game, but it just
From the top, the very first report.
was it the very first report? Did I?
Yeah, and the Team Wars Talks is the very first one.
Okay, I'm just going to go back. And then go forward again. This is not helpful, but I'm doing it. There we go. Okay. Tier 0, we have Chris with us from Tier 0 against Sensei, which is the new South Korean team. 10-6 to Tier 0, who I now believe are 2-1 this season. And Chris, you went 6-2, which is pretty impressive, using Thunder Dragons and Blue Eyes. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about either of those decks that you've not already said, or just how you prepared for this game in general.
Well, trying to read Dezin's teams in general is kind of hard, so we wanted to build a solid lineup without having a lot of niche decks for specific counters or like super specific decks, I guess. So we just went with what we felt was the best possible lineup.
Yeah.
Like we had, we started Dark Lord Blue Eyes, like Thunder Dragon Blue Eyes, Fire Kings. Like we know that Blue Eyes doesn't have a solid counter, so we also sent that to the Dark Lords.
Yeah.
And they brought two already, so it brought our Blue Eyes out early.
Yeah, you used Thunder Dragons to counter Blue Eyes, which is interesting, and also used an Alert of Darkness Thunder Dragon build, which is not standard at the moment. Like I said, lots of people are giving up on Thunder Dragon. Do you think maybe using this sort of build is a way to claim the deck back and to make it strong still?
Personally, I never liked the level dupe build, and I never played that in any tournament or in any team event because I never liked that, and I don't even think it's the best version of the deck or that strong. It's very easy to stop. Can't play around back row. You always need Levinir to beat any meta deck.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Basically, that's what I think, and that's why I didn't play the level dupe version.
Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously it worked out for you. I saw a couple people asking for your list. I know that you're not giving it out, which is fair enough. I wouldn't either. But yeah, 3 wins is always good. And then, as we said, Blue Eyes doing what Blue Eyes has done this week in winning games. So
yeah, well, it was, yeah. Even though I don't. Actually, before the new rank 6, I thought that Thunder can't beat Blue Eyes because just Spirit into Azure tanks the whole, like, no matter what the Thunder player does.
yeah.
At most, he can get over one monster with a boosted duo. But after the level 6, who you need 3 materials, you can choose some wins, but that's about it. If they have a back row, you can't even do that.
Yeah. That makes sense. But yeah, apart from that, it's all looking pretty standard. But anyway, good luck for next week, Chris. And now we've finally gone for everyone's games. It took a while. We're going to catch up to where we were. Though I believe we are nearly done now, and we're nearly going to go on the analysis, which is something we've been doing throughout. So yeah, hopefully we'll just pick up on the conversations. Lots of close wars this week, I'm realizing, as we scroll through them. But this is where we are at, which is, there we go. BZ versus Duel Links Taiwan. 10-4 for Duel Links Taiwan, and this is an interesting one because I did a show discussing the divisions at the start of the season. And I believe BZ are the only team that every single season in their history as a team they have made playoffs, but they're 0-3 at the moment. So you know, they've only got they can only lose one more game, maybe not even that with the way round difference is, to qualify for playoffs. Yeah, it's it's looking pretty tough for them. I don't know if anyone thinks can still make it, but
I don't know their schedule, but the BC is a really strong team, and they have the abilities to make playoffs. I don't know how hard is their schedule from now on.
They
But they
were
are definitely a strong team.
they were seeded top in their league, so as far as I'm aware, they shouldn't have like that hard a schedule. But then, that should have been true for the entire season as they were the top seed, and they've not won their games. But that just shows how competitive this league is. That a team as strong as BZ can still be 0-3, and
In a format like this, which is very open. Like, I don't know, it's not solved for the majority of the community for sure.
Yeah.
In the past, we were playing the same meta for so long. If you remember the Dark Lord, Element Saber, Dark Magician, all that kind of stuff, and everyone knew what beats what, the decks, everything play styles. Now we got a lot of new band lists and boxes who are not like tier 0 decks, so you have to test a bit more to understand.
Yeah.
It's easy to see a tier 0 deck like full power Dark Lords, but not that much for a tier 2, for example, deck.
That definitely makes sense. And yeah, maybe that is having an impact on teams. But yeah, Duel Links Taiwan didn't make playoffs last season. Think they are doing well this season though. So yeah, maybe they'll be back in the playoffs again. Another team having a pretty strong season, Sky Parameters, formerly X Hunters. Obviously helped a huge amount by that DC win at the beginning, but Blue Eyes again, yeah, delivering the goods, and yeah,
And it's impressive to win when you have Hype Beast on your team. I'm just saying, like.
Hype Beast seeing at home with a 3-1 performance, so
We won while having Trap Dexter though.
It's fair enough. We win every week we've won so far. We've had Jimmy in our team, so.
Oh goodness! Wait, and you haven't disbanded yet? Jesus.
Jimmy is your plot armor.
Jimmy, listen, Jimmy, we love you. Hasn't played this season yet, but I'm sure you'll be seeing his name soon. But yeah, everyone has that player, don't they? But yeah, this is one of the few times we've seen Triamids get 2 wins. Now, obviously, with Balance, the skill has already been changed. They're one of the only decks that seems to be able to use Balance as it is now. But yeah, I just want to get us onto the meta analysis. So I am going to speed through these last. Oh,
that's the last one.
That was the last one. Cool.
Nice. Finally.
Okay, we got there. Thanks for the patience, everyone. Those were all the games. I'm sorry if we didn't talk about your team for as long as you wanted us to. There are a lot of games and they take a while to discuss. But now I'm going to move on to the analysis. So, I believe there are... Okay, this is what we have for the analysis, this one. We haven't got the chart yet. That will come out later in the week, I'm sure. But Blue Eyes up there with 102 games and 63 wins. So over a 60% win rate. It really was the strongest deck.
Which is insane for having played that many games.
Yeah, 60% win rate over that many games. I mean, it's played that many games because it streaked so many times as well. The one thing that I think is confusing with this is not like in a Clan Wars style league where if something's played the most games, it just outright means it was the deck that people brought the most. With Blue Eyes, it's only played that many games because it streaked and won that many games. It might be that people brought more water, but it just didn't streak as often. Blue Eyes really doing well. 60% over 100 games is really solid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
especially it's a format where you rely on a counter pick, and
Mm-hmm.
some people might think that some decks counter blue eyes, but me personally think that nothing. Like you can't call anything a blue eyes counter,
Yeah.
and you just see that. Like the games you lose is some decks can God hand you and you still lose, like Water or Thunder or
Yeah.
whatever. Any deck can God hand a mediocre blue eyes hand and beat it, or you can break. But
Yeah.
overall, blue eyes is really solid all around.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I apologize to the Team Wars staff because I was wrong. They do have a chart. I just couldn't find it, but I've got it now.
You mean right under the other chart? It really hit it.
Yeah. We have the chart anyway, and yeah, you can see there all of the green next to blue eyes. The only time where it doesn't have green matchups is where the deck wasn't played very much. So it only played 5
Yeah,
games
that's not
against
a good
Lunar
enough
Knights.
sample.
And it only played 3 games against Dark Lords and Triumphs together. So I don't think it even says much about them being counters just because of that. I think people would definitely
Yeah, that's
argue
a
that.
really small sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the Team Wars sample every week is it's really hard to draw any massive conclusions because misplays can contribute to it, and the sample's not big enough to actually say anything. This is just an interesting insight. I think the only one that you can really look at is that in 124 games played, a 58% win rate, or if you take out the mirrors, a 60% win rate over 96 games. Those are pretty high figures. So that shows generally at the moment it's the deck to beat, and teams not having an answer to it has really cost them. Now, I'll be interesting to see if people do go for Buster Blader like Bricks did, though I wonder if Perozo's comment that Buster Blader not actually being that good will influence it. Yeah, I'm getting the vibe from you, Perozo, that you wouldn't necessarily pick Buster again.
Honestly, honestly, not even what I said. Like in the other war that it was used, Buster Blader got 0-2 by Blue Eyes.
Oof.
Like it's I know it in theory you should beat Blue Eyes, but like it's not auto win.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Andy after that war. I was like, "So, do you think that's worth testing or bringing again?" He's like, "No, it's dog crap.
Yeah,
It's terrible. Just
It's
don't
terrible.
even
Don't do it.
think about it."
Yeah, don't do it. It's terrible.
Wow. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one other thing that we haven't touched on yet, but it's interesting. Dark Lords only had a 36% win rate. Let's go with the left-hand column. Why do you think that is, considering people are saying that it's maybe a tier 1 deck right now?
That is shocking to me, to be honest. I don't understand that.
Because the chances to open the combo it's 36.8%. That's how many times you
That's
win.
fair. That's fair.
I think that that in somewhat, I think it is a little bit overhyped. I don't think it's really a tier 1 deck, as well as I think that it's a bit less straightforward to play than Water or Blue Eyes, so people are more likely to misplay with it, which may contribute to a slightly lower win rate if over an extended amount of games. Like the people that know how to play, like you look at Resolene did really well with it, but I don't know about any of the other Dark Lord games. But it's like one of those like not straightforward. Like here's the deck, go play it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, misplays could have definitely played a factor in that, but at the same time, they can't all be misplays. We're only winning 1 in 3.
It's true.
As Chris
Yeah.
said, yeah, the chance of opening the combo are only something like 36%, or maybe even slightly less than that. I don't know exactly how you work that out with all the draw cards as well, but I think some people would argue against that the Dark Lord engine itself is pretty strong, but clearly it's not enough because yeah, the only positive matchup that it had was where it was only played 1 game. and that's the Lunar Light. So again, you can't read anything into that. The picture for Dark Lords is not looking good in Team Wars at the moment. Yeah, Water, despite the fact that Water streaked to win 3 separate wars looking through those, it still only has a 50% win rate, which to me is suggesting that if Water's not streaking, it's going up, losing very quickly. So maybe not the best counter pick, but then it does have strong matchups against the board against Dark Lords, Fun Dragons, Fire Kings, and Lunar Lights, which is very interesting if you were to follow this. But again, tiny sample sizes. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking as much now and open the field up to any of you. Is there anything you particularly want to look at in this graph? Then let me know.
I think Water, like, doesn't have a solely a good grind game, but it can win games fast with, like, it fundamentally has good mechanics with all the. It's just a deck that can pop a face-up card whenever it likes. So obviously that's gonna be good in Yu-Gi-Oh in general. You can also play TTAs and stuff like that, but it doesn't have the highest ceilings to beat most decks in most scenarios. Most of the time you have a good enough play like Dueler with Infantry, but you rely on your opponent not having the best hand. Like, I know in the Blue Eyes matchup, like, if they can spam a lot of monsters, you need to have a Diva with TTA, otherwise you can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why 50% sounds good for a deck like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And 50% is definitely not bad. It shows that it's still one of the strongest decks.
It's good, but it's not great.
Yeah. Oh, Ryo Payne, thanks for the subscription. Yeah, we appreciate that. Get yourself in Fantasy League if you're not already. Yeah, so Herf, one thing that you mentioned is that you liked Vikings and felt like they were underrepresented. Are you surprised by the 42% win rate? Again, over a small sample of games. I will caveat that.
I don't think that I think it should be around 50% because it all depends on a lot of things, and I think that Water and Blue Eyes both being like really relevant in the meta makes it like somewhat unfavorable if you don't have a very high representation. Because like if you look at how many games that Blue Eyes and Water were played in, it's way more than pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
So you're pretty likely to face something that you're not very good against, or like at best 50-50 against, right? In my opinion. So it makes sense that there's a lower win rate, but I definitely think that if you look at over the weekend how well it did in something like Damage Step and other community tournaments as well, I genuinely think that more and more people will like it. Like the 30 card build I think will become pretty standard, and it will be able to outgrind like Water or Blue Eyes eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, this does link into what I was saying about maybe the hand trap versions aren't quite right for the meta, with Blue Eyes and Water being the strongest decks right now. So interested to see if the changes.
That's what I don't like about Fire Kings.
Yeah.
Even though you have the loop which destroys the field every turn and the negation with Arvata, I don't like how you need to play hand traps to beat specific decks, and you can't play back row because if you play back row you have other bad matchups. And I don't like how the engine itself can deal with most cases. Like, for example, in Blue Eyes, you don't play hand traps, yet you can beat all the OTK decks just because it's strong enough by itself.
Yeah.
And when you have to decide between hand traps or back row, it just goes to show that your deck is not strong enough.
Yeah, it definitely is a deck with limitations. I think there's no argument there, but I also think that you can build it in a way that it consistently beats a certain type of deck, and
I agree for that, for sure. You can build it in a way that can beat like the OTK decks, for sure.
Yeah. And it does that pretty consistently. Like, I know you can't read into a 2-1 record, but it's over all the weeks. I'm sure if you added all the Thunder Dragon Fire King matchups together, then it is Fire King favored. Same for Onomat. I know not everyone is going to agree with that, but yeah, it's beating those specific decks with current
No, I
builds.
agree. These two decks definitely lose to Vikings.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
Lunar Lights as well are another deck that can't
Oh,
really
yeah.
beat Vikings very
It's
easily.
easy.
Yeah. Cyber Dragons is a more debatable one, but yeah, this is the meta analysis for this week anyway. Yeah, headline is definitely Blue Eyes, as we have mentioned throughout. Really, really strong. Perozo,
Yeah.
have you got any comments that you want to make on this?
Yeah. The two things, well, three things that are most shocking to me
Mm-hmm.
is that Sidra was more played than Dark Lords. I don't know. I think Sidra sucks. And the thing that Dark Lords had that low of a win rate, and the most important is just highlighting the Water versus Blue Eyes matchup. Like I was saying at the beginning, I think it's Blue Eyes favorite, and it is like more or less an unpopular opinion. But look at that, 38% for Water. It's as soon as Blue Eyes stop playing Karma Gut, the matchup just turns around completely.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, and we'll have to see if other decks capitalize on that change, or if Blue Eyes has to go back to Karma Cup. But right now, the move to Retro Strap Hole really did help Blue Eyes this week, as you can see here. And yeah, at the very start, you did mention that the changing builds had an impact, and they definitely do. 62% of being one of the highest match win rates all around, though 64 against Fun Dragons and 71 against Vikings as well. So, and 68% against Dark Lords. So, yeah, it just has good matchups against everything right now, doesn't it? There's nothing to pick out.
I think if Blue Eyes is favored versus all these decks, I think the stats are accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting that I'd like to see what would happen if someone tested Blue Eyes and Lunar Lights another 20 games, and to see what the win rate would look like at that point, because
No, I mean in the Lunar Light, in the sample size is too small for the lower tier, but versus Water side, the Dark Lord Thunder, I think Blue Eyes definitely wins, and Fire Kings obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the Lunalite matchup is you just don't synchro, right? And then you just, when you're ready and they have to commit to the field because you're putting pressure with 3k beat sticks, you just make your Cyber Twin and non-targeting banish, right? Like, I feel like...
I would say that Blue Eyes also beats Lunalite. You have out to the big fusion now.
Mm-hmm.
You can negate graveyard effects, you can summon your monsters just in defense, whatever.
Yeah, I think the same. I think that if Lunalite beats Blue Eyes, it's because Blue Eyes breaked or he doesn't know how to play the matchup. Like it's so easy for a Blue Eyes player to summon Spirit Dragon, and in end phase trigger Stone and special summon the Blue Eyes in attack position and lose the game to that. Like if you play properly, like if you play consciously, that you only have to keep the Spirit in attack position or TTH in yourself, Book of Moon in yourself, and Chain to the Fusion, like you auto win the matchup. Like there's just no way that wins consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, that is the headline then. Read all about it, everyone. Blue Eyes, by far the strongest deck this week, and anyone that wants to win a Team Wars game next week,
you
you're
don't
gonna have to
bring
consider
at least 5 Blue Eyes, you don't understand the meta.
Wow. Tier 0 strike again with that one. Bring 5 Blue Eyes. We will see what happens there. But now we're going to move on from the analysis, because I think throughout the throughout the match reports, we've looked at the analysis in much depth we can. Just going to quickly go on to power rankings now. Oops. There we go. Just to confirm what I said earlier, Zenzo has won 16 out of 30 of his team's games this season, which is over 50%, which is pretty wild.
You must have a pretty big backpack.
Yeah, Yeah, he is carrying Sem. But to be fair, Sem themselves aren't any slouches. So yeah, doing well this season. Closely behind, only four wins behind is Louise from Banana Rampage. Banana Rampage on their first season back, and they're doing very well. Behind that is Sachi, and Act, and then Insert has only played one game this season with 10 wins, same as Rookie, same as Sniffus.
What the hell? So many 10-1s.
Yeah, yeah, interesting that there are 3 10-1s this season, and all of them put you into the power rankings. Sorry, Chris, did I cut over you there? Do you want to add anything?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I was just surprised that we're week 3 and we have 3 10-1.
Yeah, it's an average of 1 a week, isn't it? Which is pretty crazy. We'll see if that continues.
I'm surprised Nefus also did the 10-1, considering his skill level.
Yeah, and then Scorpions down below, like I said, on my
Probably he
team.
was invested.
Man, Sniffer's not here to defend himself. No one can say anything.
No, it's okay.
Where is he?
It's okay. Classic Chris.
Tag him, bro. Where is he?
Neg did ask if you'd been toxic, and you had to deliver at some point.
Yeah. For Sniffers.
That's why he was here.
It would have been
Don't
wrong.
worry. Don't worry. We'll unleash Sniffers next war, so he gets another 10 wins. It's okay.
You have to press him.
Yeah, but Zenzo is the one to catch still, and it looks like he's going to play every week because he's played all 3 so far. So yeah, let's see if he can keep that up over the season. That would be some record if he manages to do that. Yeah, that is it on power rankings. There's no point looking at them for too long. We're just gonna have a quick look now at the divisions before we call it a day. So this is the Dragon Ravine division. I've now remembered all the division names finally. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of this one.
APK doing really good.
Yeah, plus 16. We've won all games at least 10-5 or better this season. 2 10-5s and a 10-4. So yeah, really proud of the boys.
Really good.
I would love to claim some credit, but I've done absolutely none of the work myself. So yeah, and then Rafaelza and FM trailing just behind Infinity and Pharaohs, Switcheroo, Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Life, and Smogon, all on 1 win, as I said. So really close division. We'll see
Yeah.
how
Mm.
that progresses. That is Dragon Ravine. On to Aroma Garden, and then yeah, Zenzo's boys. It's Sem, top of that one, followed by Bricks and Diffusion, and Sun Clan, all on 6. So very close at the top there with 3 2 and 1 teams. Lost Tribe, Phoenix, and Modern Empire all with 3, and then Victor Lee's boys all the way down at 8th place. That
Waiting for a coach to lose. Let's go.
Yeah, that cannot be doing his book sales any good, is all I can say. Yeah. 0-3. Well, Divine have made playoffs before, so maybe they can make a comeback. They're not the only 0-3 team this season. That is the Aroma Garden, and then Dreamland Division. This is the only other division where there is an undefeated team besides the first 2. Duel Links Taiwan 3-0, 14 round difference. So that's pretty good. And then Uchilas with their 10-1, up there with Sky Parameters, Banana Rampage. Yeah, Shadow Game Links, Garuda, and Phoenix all towards the bottom, and then BZ at the very bottom. That surprises everyone, I'm sure.
How please be 0 this division?
Please, what tier 0?
How is BZ 0-3?
Oh yeah, how is BZ 0-3? Yeah, it's It's a shock for everyone, isn't it? I'm
Yeah.
not actually sure
They
which teams they
probably lost
played and which they
everything.
haven't yet. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Duel Links Taiwan was one of them. But well, yeah, that was the team they played this week. I'm not sure who their other two games were. But yeah, as the mod says, you would think we were reading it backwards. The top should be at the bottom and the bottom should be at the top. I think Duel Links Taiwan might argue with that, but BZ and Phoenix definitely would agree. So we'll see if they
No,
can.
Phoenix.
Probably Garuda as well.
Phoenix
agree.
being 1-2 is understandable.
Oof, oof. Big words. Like I said, I play for Phoenix and Clan Wars, so
So
yeah.
what? You think I care? No, I'm joking. Well, it's a big surprise.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I don't for Team Wars, so I don't care about them there.
Hey, Chris, they just bricked, okay?
Yeah,
You open Necro Valley
Oh, yeah,
TTH, it's a brick.
just bricks. Anyway, this is even closer than the first division because there is no team 3-0 heading up the league. But the Toon Kingdom division sees Rookies, Fallen Angels, Tier 0, and Sensei all have 2 wins, and then X Factors, Toon Squad, EXO, and Claw Clan all have 1 win. I was wrong about Fallen Angels, by the way. It was not Shadow Game Links they beat. It was EXO they beat first week. I've now remembered. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this is still really close. Even after 3 weeks, you have no idea what's going to happen.
yeah, for sure. I mean, any team in this league can still top because just how it's poised, and just for everyone that doesn't know, hasn't watched Team Wars that much before, 6 and 4 is normally the magic number as long as your round difference is okay. That's how many wins you have to make playoffs, and then the top teams go into playoffs. If you win your division, you get a bye, so there's an extra incentive to win the division because then you're straight into the top 8. But yeah, it looks like any team from here could take that. No clear leader yet. So yeah, I
Even
think
though Rookies won their division last season.
yeah, Rookies are a very solid team. They regularly do well. 9-1 in Swiss, but they regularly top their divisions since they've been a team.
Yeah.
So going to be a fight for sure with all of those teams at 2-1. That actually makes Tier 0's win even more important, considering Sensei were 2-0 beforehand. But yeah, that's shaping up to be a really good one with Toon Squad in there as well.
We stumbled week 2.
Yeah.
Hopefully, will no longer be on the lineup.
Yeah, that's what everyone hopes. But anyway, I think that is all we're going to talk about this week. So I'm just going to one by one give everyone a chance to say their final words before we move on and finish the stream. So Chris, have you got any final thoughts or any shout outs you want to give?
Shout out to -1 for nothing, just because he's here. That's all.
Brilliant, thank you. Perozo.
Yeah, to the boys in general, like, I feel like even though this season I had to take the lead with Sniffers of the team, and it has been very good until now. Like, we have some AFK players and stuff like that, but we've been doing really well, so I'm really proud of my team.
Yeah.
And thanks to Andy that didn't leave me alone. I think he's always there to give me an advice if I need it. Yeah. It's okay, Chris. It's okay. I won't be toxic with him.
You have anything to say? I'm taking over.
Watch your back.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, man. And Herf, any final words?
Not really. Just thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity and can talk about my team, which I love. Thanks everybody. Thanks to Chris, CPerozo, and Colonel King for being so awesome. Nice. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, no, thanks everyone for coming out, and yeah, shout out to all the boys at APK as well for doing so well. And Phoenix, I'm sure you'll get back in it. um, but
Ooh.
yeah, I've really appreciated all you being on the show with us today. Come back next week for Team Wars Talk. There'll be a different host, but yeah, they'll go through all of the games coming up this weekend, which you can tune into as well. Every single game will be live as always. Yeah, it's going to be a great week. We're going to be able to see if we're here this time next week looking at Blue Eyes as a dominant force still, or if someone works out something. But yeah, sorry the stream has lagged a couple of times, but we've just got through everything now, hopefully. Thanks everyone that came out to watch it, and catch you all again soon.
Zarek, suck my dick.